Today's an exciting day because my new board has arrived. If you are wondering how to prepare a new surfboard, that's what we're going to cover in today's lesson. Let's go.
Something like this one.
On the wave, then looking. By the way, if you're new here, this is How to Rip and this is Lesson of the Week, a show where we release a new surf tip every single week, so make sure you subscribe now. Alright, let's go. So we're going to go to the surf shop and get what we need for the new board, to prep the new board. One of the most exciting things in surfing is like getting a new surfboard. When I was younger, when I used to get new boards, I used to literally sleep. I had the board in my bedroom when I went to sleep, like just the stupidest thing.
Let's go!
So picking a leg rope is kind of super easy. I like to use the comp cords. The comp cords are like really thin and offer obviously less drag with your board. Unless you're surfing like really solid waves or you got a really long board, you probably don't need a thick cord, especially when you're beginning. I just find the thin cords tend to stay out the way and be a little bit less obtrusive. So I'm going to go for a 5'5" or a 6 foot comp today because my board's only 5'6", so I'm going to go for the 6, just to make sure it stays out the way and is long enough and stuff. If you're on a long board, you probably need like a much longer leg rope so that it's not restrictive. Let's just grab, I'm going to actually go for this FCS comp one. It just has a cool look about it. Knowing surfboard fins is almost like an art in itself. I don't know everything about fins, I just know the ones that I do like. I really love the FCS 2s, which is these guys here. Previously I was on like Future fins because I had a really solid grip to the board. Before that I was on like glass on fins because I just had this thing in my head that they held the wave better. But since the FCS 2s came out, I don't think they're beatable. If you are a beginner, chances are you probably won't have to consider fins that heavily. Just sort of get whatever is recommended to you. Normally surf shops do have like someone who's really well versed in all the fins, and you can look on like the various fin manufacturers' websites to find out all the details. But yeah, generally I'll just get like a medium size because I'm 80 kilos. If you're really heavy, you might go for something longer and bigger, so like a large size fin. It basically comes down to how you surf, what sort of board you're putting the fins in, and how much you weigh. Pretty sure I've covered it, but I'm going to choose the FCS 2s today, the Performers. Tailpads. Again, there's not really like a science to choosing a good tailpad. It really depends on your personal preference. They've got smaller ones for smaller boards, medium ones. The biggest factor I tend to consider is the kick. So the kick is like this sort of thing at the end, which keeps your foot from slipping off the back. I had a surf the other day on the fish and my foot just kept slipping off the back. There's no tailpad on it. It's just, it's such an underappreciated part of the surfboard, this amazing thing, this traction. So I like to find something with like a moderately sized kick. So this one here, for instance, has like a moderate sized kick. Not too much of a heel arch. If you notice on the side here, this is actually raised in the middle. My feet are really flat, so I don't really love that. So I just like a sort of minimalistic tail pad. So I'm going to choose one of those and add it to the basket. There's all different kinds of wax that you can get for your surfboard. Generally it comes down to the temperature of the water that you're surfing in. So if you are surfing in water that's like frigid, freezing cold water, then you'll need a softer wax because once it gets in the cold water, it'll actually harden up in a big way. Similarly, if you are surfing in somewhere like Bali or somewhere tropical, maybe Florida or something like that, you guys in the States heading down to like really South Mexico, you would need to get a much harder wax, so a warm water wax, which is a hard wax, to stop it melting. I remember when I was younger I didn't know this, and I went up to the Gold Coast and I was using like a cold water wax, and I just have found that I was slipping off all the time. The wax was literally melting in the hot water. Over here in Sydney, the temperature's quite moderate. It doesn't really change too much from winter to summer. Maybe like 6 or 7 degrees Celsius. So I tend to sort of stick to the same wax, like a cool water wax. And then if I am finding that my wax is melting, there's not enough on there, I'll get a little bit of warm water wax, which is the harder wax, and put it on top just to make sure. Alright, we've got our stuff. And now we're gonna go and assemble all the stuff with the board.
I'm excited.
Okay, so welcome to my super messy garage. I'm just about to move into the new house, hence all the mess. But what's really important is the surfboard. Okay, so the first thing you want to do with your surfboard, let me just adjust this, is generally you want to put on the tail pad. This is the first point of call because you don't want to have wax anywhere by the area on which you're going to put your tail pad, because you want the grip to be as strong as possible. You'll see when you get the tail pad, this is just an Atlas one. It's the same brand or same owners, I believe, of the JR surfboards, I believe. So you'll notice when the tail pads come, they've got like a brown base to them, and that essentially just maintains the stickiness of the traction pad. I'll tell you a story. When I was like working in a surf shop, I was told to put on like one of these tail pads for a customer, and he was like super anal about it, and I'm the complete opposite. So I was a little bit nervous about putting on this tail pad, and I actually put it on like askew. So we actually had to rip it off and give him a new one. So you just want to be really careful and take your time. That's probably the biggest thing with when you're putting on this new tail pad. Positioning, I like to sort of put it back sort of close to the leggy plug, the leg rope plug back here, or the leash plug if you're in America, but not too close that it blocks off your movements when you're trying to actually tie the leg rope on. I'm going to put it on about 5 centimeters north of the leggy plug here. That's where I like it, because it means your back foot is going to be right over the fins. Some people just put it as far back as they can, and that's fine. I don't typically enjoy having it back there, so my general rule is about 5 centimeters in front of the plug. I like to use the stringer, that's this line down the middle of the board, to actually center and base the position off with these side sections of the tail pad. Sometimes your tail pad might come in like one big piece, but this one doesn't. So I'm just going to put it on either side of the stringer there and use that as a reference point. Sort of put that there and then build it without actually sticking it. I personally like to leave small gaps between the actual area of the board here. I'll show you guys. Just like that, just to, you know, cover as much ground as possible when I'm going to put my back foot back here, which is incredibly important because, as you guys know, your back foot is really what drives the turning on a board anyway. That's pretty much perfect, and what I'm going to do now is actually do it one at a time. So I like to grab a piece without moving it too much, peel off the brown underlayer. So again, now we're sort of exposing this to stickiness now. I like to keep that there, not take it off the whole way, so that again I can position it. And once I've got the positioning right, I'm happy with that. I'm going to press down on that area. I can shift these out the way now temporarily. And I'm going to gradually peel the brown from underneath and slowly press down very firmly on the pad. Make sure all the brown paper is off. That little guy just nearly stuck me up. So that's all in the perfect position now. So that's now my reference point for putting on the other parts of the tail pad. And that's probably a smarter way to go, I think. Giving a good hard press to make sure that the tail pad does not come off. I also like to leave at least, you know, a few hours at the very least, even a day, for the tailpad to set, because one of the most annoying things is in surfing is a tailpad that's actually flopping or flapping off while you're trying to surf. So that's the most time-consuming part of setting up your new board. Let's put the leg rope on. Some people find that like this knot is too small for their leg rope to fit in. I think it's like a basic fishing knot or something, is it? I can't remember what that's called, but this knot I find really strong and reliable when you're trying to set up your leg rope. So what I tend to do is just to pull it apart, which tightens it. So just sort of grab each end here and just give it a really strong pull, just to make sure that it's super tight. Some people like to loop it through the hook first, but I find a much stronger and more reliable knot is to actually keep it like that, fish it through, so force it through there, just like that, and then use it as like a double knot. So sort of put the end of the leg rope through those two knots. This way you actually get the board protection from here, and you don't have any chances of the leg rope sort of ripping through the board. And you know, that might sound improbable, but I've seen that happen, especially in big surf. So I like to sort of put that through, and this is why I also like to buy the thinner width-wise, the thinner sort of straps. And then I put it through both hooks, and then secure the strap as you normally would. Might do a little neat job of that. Fold that over, in, boom, and see what I mean with the tail protecting benefits of this here. This is actually like a tail protector. You don't have like the rope causing like a shearing motion on the edge of the board. You've actually got this here protecting it. If this rope was longer, you would have the rope sort of hanging over the edge, and again that can lead to ripping through the board. I've just found this much more reliable. So now I've got the leg rope ready. I'm going to leave this nice and straight so that it doesn't curl up and get annoying, and I'm going to move on to waxing the board. I'm not going to spend too long on this because Ryan's already done a video on the channel. I'll put the link up here for you to check it out. But basically, when it comes to waxing the board, you guys know what I think. I've got a cool to mid-warm wax here, so that means it's kind of in the middle between soft and hard, like a little semi. Is it just sort of outline where I'm going to put the wax? I don't put the wax over the whole board. Especially because I've got my tailpad back here. I don't need to put wax like all the way to the tailpad. It's not going to do any harm if you do. My only sort of insistence is that I put the wax on all the way up, sort of close to the top here, because, you know, doing air reverses and stuff, your foot will slide up to the front of the board. So you kind of want some traction up there. But basically I sort of outline it and then do some basic brush strokes like this and build up a bit of a wax profile, and then just thicken it up until I've got some good beads there, and I know that's going to be nice and thick and sticky. That's what's most important. Okay, so I've used about almost half, maybe a third of the block here, and you can kind of see the wax has sort of started to become like little beads. And that's when you know it's going to be nice and grippy. So not too little wax. Too much wax is not going to like kill the board, but it can get pretty ugly. Let's move on to putting the fins in. So like I said before, I love the FCS2 fins. This really strong lock system is really nice and solid. Basically you can sort of see which way the fins go in just by the straight edge of the fin is going to be facing inward. You know, it's pretty silly to put your fins in the wrong way, but basically the raked shape should be pointing backwards. So this tip here should be pointing backwards, like towards the tail. The only criticism I have of these FCS2s is that they're really hard to get out, which is probably a good thing. They're their greatest strength as well, because they very rarely fall out or break. But they're very hard to get out, and you kind of have to like hit them with your shoe to get them out. You know, Miguel Pupo made that pretty famous on WSL tour. So basically I'm just going to stick this bad boy in. I'm going to put that little juncture inside the fin box and then twist it down. Let's get a closer look. Okay, so I'll put this in here. Remember, straight edge facing inward. I'm going to push it up, so like as far as it can go here, and then it's kind of like a couple of knocks, and it's in. You don't need to go crazy, and also make sure the nose of the board is sort of protected, just up there. Make sure that's like sitting on something rather than the ground. So that's in there. I'm going to do that for the remaining 3 fins. The middle fin obviously is curved on both sides, so don't be confused there. That just means it goes in the middle. So we've got curvature on both sides of the fin. So I'm going to again pump that in all the way to the top and just give it a couple of sharp taps, and it's in. And finally the last one. There we go. Fins are good. Alright, so that's it, guys. The board is ready to go. I'm going to go surfing. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Comment below on what else you'd like to see on Lesson of the Week, and we will speak to you very soon. I think the waves are pumping, so I'm going to get out there now. See ya.
Something like this one.
On the waves and looking.
I reckon that'd be super fun.
Little boogie boarder.
Yeah, love that.